Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for September the 18th, 2025 at 7 p.m. And I see you all ready to stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I'm Mike O'Reilly, the chairman, and we'll call the roll starting on my right.
Dominic Smerglino, alternate commissioner.
Dominic Panitia, alternate commissioner.
Brian Cotton, commissioner.
Anna Ambrosi, commissioner.
Bruno Maini, commissioner.
Robert Westland, commissioner.
Nicole Lupo, alternate commissioner.
Okay, that's
For planning and zoning administrator.
Anyone online?
No commissioners on that.
Us? Okay, then we don't need to seek any alternates or here. Then we'll start with general public participation. Any members of the public are here tonight that would like to address the commission on an issue that's not on the agenda tonight. This would be the time to do that. Please raise your hand and I will choose you. Come on down. State your name and address for the record.
like, or is that not on the agenda or will be on in the near.
Correct. Oh, yeah. It's something good.
Next.
Next one.
My name is Paula Jelly. I live at 290 Cottage Street. On Tuesday, I went to the assessor's office to get a couple field cards because I thought the GIS system on the assessor's website on the town was incorrect. Turns out it was incorrect. I think the GIS system has been incorrect all year. And how I found that out is someone said he owned the property around me who wasn't the person listed on the GIS system. And I also had a third property say if I wanted to look up because I know that property had sold a few months ago. And it turns out it wasn't, the field card was also incorrect. And the assessor said that he would contact the Metro COG system. It usually gets updated every Friday, he says. So my point in bringing this up is that all these public hearings this year, there are some people who probably haven't been properly notified. And like John Mangieri, who used to own the property around me, now Jan Land, the development owns it, is listed on the people notified by Monroe. So there's further proof that people who should have been notified have not been notified. So I'm going to leave it to you guys to correct maybe past public hearings, find out from the assessor's office how far it went back, but I'd have proof that it was from the first of this year, because Jan's Land Development bought the property around me January 2nd of this year. And it was still showing John Mangieri as owning the property Tuesday, but I checked a few hours ago, it has been updated, so the system has been updated. But how it affects planning and zoning.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Does the developer use the field cards online? Or
Yes, they do. She is correct. They use the GIS system. The GIS system creates a buffer. That's what most people use. They use the GIS system that creates a buffer around it, and that will generate a list. We do tell our consultants that, you should double check that list. I will talk to the assessor. I don't know what the lag time is between a transfer of property, when it gets put into the master address table, when then that gets uploaded to GIS. I know she said every Friday, but I don't know what that means. So for example, like our subdivision maps, so like we just subdivided 2 and it's going to be now 6 Victoria. That's not going to show up into the system until 6 months, in advance. So like the lag for that is October 1 is when the grand list is required. So that's when it's required for all of those items to be updated. So when we do a subdivision, let's say October 2nd of 2025, we're not going to see that in GIS until the end of 2027, just because that's the way the grand list works. It's very inconvenient for planning and zoning. I don't know how that works with just like transfer of addresses, but I will get that from him and figure out what that
Records in the assessor's office are up to date. They just aren't online.
If you go to them, they can give you the information, but it's not publicly accessible or accessible to planning and zoning.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, you're gonna work on that.
Yeah, but I'll ask them just what the lead time is when there's a transfer of ownership. How long does it take for that to get updated on the field card?
Do we have any other members of the public here tonight that would like to address the commission on issues not on the agenda? Or do we have anybody online? Please raise your hand online if you would like to address the commission during our general public participation period. Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Our first public hearing is SCP 2025, which is 169 Enterprise Drive, which is continued from 9/4/25. You have any exhibits, Kathleen?
Yes. Since our last meeting on the 4th, we've had the extension letter by the applicant because we are beyond our 35 days of our public hearing. And so they submitted an extension letter granting us to go to today's date, which is September 18th, from the applicant. And the applicant and engineer submitted revised drawings on 9/15/2025. Those were exhibits, apologies, 15 and 16. Exhibit 17 was a report from the town of Monroe Health Department, document dated 8/7/25. Exhibit 18 is the revised engineering report by town of Monroe engineer James DeMayo, document dated 9/16/25. Exhibit 19 was the revised planning and zoning administrator report by myself, document dated 9/16/25.
Okay, thank you. For the applicant,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we've discussed and continuing forward, we have been working on updating and say,
just name and address for the record.
Joe Thibodeau, 69 Enterprise Drive. We have been working with Kathleen and James, to meet and fulfill the requests in the in the response letters. We actually met with Kathleen and James today to kind of work on closing out the last few items on the list. And Kathleen kind of agree. I think we made a lot of progress and headway today, and Alan and I are going to go back next week. We're going to submit our final set of revised drawings to update the parking calculations and the exact building uses, along with a few other minor adjustments on the plans, some requests of James and Kathleen, picking things up and things I would like to see them. If anybody has any questions, I'm open to answering.
So you're not ready to close the hearing then?
What's that?
We can't close the hearing because they need to revise their drawings.
Right, okay.
But they have to request the extension, right?
They have to grant.
Yeah, I could, would you like another?
I need another
request?
letter.
Okay, yeah, that's
Just another 2 weeks.
Okay, good. We'll go for questions from it. There are changes you can inform us of?
So the changes are, we could go through the two letters, Kathleen and James, and kind of recap our meeting, what we talked about today.
Okay,
We'll start with, Kathleen's letter. She had a few items that she wanted addressed on there. The first was in regards to the parking calculations, which is also something highlighted by James before. We want to make sure that the use of the building will comply with the parking regulations set forth by the town. And in our discussions today, we kind of came to the use of the building from our manufacturing and storage and also contractor storage base. And we're going to go back, we're going to refine the parking calculations on the plans to show that we do meet the standards set forth by the town for that type of use of the building. So any use going forward in the future would be covered.
And just for a quick clarification for this commission's understanding of then what you're being asked to approve. So they've kind of gone through what their operations are. They are, taking big slabs of stone, they're putting it into veneers. We are categorizing that based on the town's definition as manufacturing. They're doing all that work inside of the building. They will have additional outdoor storage area, which they do not have shown on the drawings. They kind of have some bins, but they also plan on having pallets stacked with stone in other areas. So we're making sure they're designating that to make sure that it's not within the setbacks and we feel it's an appropriate location. They have discussed renting it out for tenants for other uses in town. The way our industrial use regulations are written and our use table is, I'm going to say all uses that are permitted with the exception of very few in the industrial zone require a special exception permit. So what ends up happening is this commission approves an entire site for, let's say, office space and warehousing. And those both have parking calculations associated with it. What has ended up happening is then when a new tenant comes into one of these industrial parks, unless it's an office or a warehouse use, I cannot approve it as a chain of tenant because they have different parking calculations. They might have different deliveries. They may have different, typical standards that, a wholesale distributor is going to have something different than just a warehousing use. So we make them come back in front of you, which you will see 2 examples of that at actually our next meeting. So what we had talked about today was if they do rent out some of those space, do they have an understanding of what type of use they would like to propose to this commission to use? So they are proposing to have other similar manufacturing uses or contractors trade establishments. And those are non-excavator contractors. So that's plumbers, HVACs, electricians, things like that. People that can park their van in their bay, come here, pick it up in the morning, go back. Maybe they also have an office person that they have a small little office in that area. They can store their equipment in the bay and things of that nature. So the ask for this commission is that this gets approved for manufacturing, which is predominantly their use, but they could have another manufacturing tenant come in, and contractors bays. Anything beyond that, someone would have to come back to you for a special exception permit. So if anybody has any questions related to the use of the property as it relates to those 2 uses, you could ask additional questions, but that is where they're asking is approved use. And as long as they meet those definitions, they come to us, we will just do it as a change of tenant administratively moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, any questions on use of building? And the whole purpose of the proposed rental is to fill the space because we might not be able to occupy the entire space of the building, but we want to build the whole project out. But obviously rental will just fill unused space. And then also in conversation with Kathleen, she said she does feel there's a tremendous need in town for storage facility, not necessarily storage facility, but a contractor bay to rectify maybe people who are operating illegally on another property, but that's a whole separate topic. Following back up to what we were talking about, the items that they requested us to update, that Kathleen briefly touched on, was the outside storage, just denoting an area on the plan of this is the outside storage area, and then showing the calculations to show that we are within the 40% that is allowed by the town. We have another comment in regards to the parking, which we already addressed. We're going to set a charter calculations to prove that we do comply with parking standards. And a few minor housekeeping things in regards to the electric vehicle charging stations that are set forth by the state mandate as well. And then for the blasting that we're on the front portion closer to the street of the property because it's solid ledge on the front, Kathleen and James had asked that we put together a blasting plan just to show the tentative area of blasting. So that way it'll be submitted as part of the application as well.
This is a special exception permit. If you choose, you can add some additional conditions on it related to blasting. However, it's surrounded by industrial zones. It's not up against a residential zone. Even the zoning in Newtown is up against, I think, an M2 for them, which is an industrial zone. So my opinion is that they don't need any other conditions of approval. They just have to comply with the state mandates, but I leave that to the commission if there's further discussion on that.
The blasting would be small, like soil sections of line blasting. This isn't like, it's like a 20, 30 foot cut. This is just to lower us from the street level elevation like 4 feet, so we can level the site to the finished elevation. So it's not a substantial cut. It's not a quarry operation or some other blasting sites you can see in town. And then in regards to some comments that James had for us, he kind of was just looking for us to refine the building uses as well, which would then in turn help with parking calculations. He did have some comments if there was gonna be any floor drains inside, which we did discuss with him. There will be floor drains, but it's all part of the closed system. The water's all recirculated and recycled. Alan is gonna note that in the plans as well, that it's a closed system. It's not connected to septic, it's not connected to stormwater disposal or anything along those lines. I had a few minor critiques as, on the backside of the property, the borders of the wetlands, you're just worried for some sort of guardrail or curb stop to stop vehicles from crossing over that. Alan's gonna add that to the revised plans as well. And then there was a few minor things that he wanted to see updated on the site lighting plan, which we're working with the consultant who did the site lighting plan for us to update that as well.
And I'd make note that you have cut sheets of the lights as part of this last submission, proving that they are dark sky compliant, downward facing, and does not permit glare going above the horizontal plane.
Okay, then let's see if there are any questions from our commissioners. Start on my right.
No questions.
No question.
For the plan. No questions. Tonight, all right. Anybody over here? Nope, then we're good. We'll go to the public. If the public has any questions or comments on this application, please raise your hand. Come down forward. Just state your name and address.
Michelle Soltisiak, 237 Cottage Street. I'm actually kind of excited. They want to come into town from Bridgeport, so I'm excited about that. I do have one big question, and it's more because I don't know the semantics you guys do of town regulations. So they seem to want to do to fill space, similar to what they wanted to do with the proposal that was behind Bart Center. Rent it out to people who necessarily don't have space for these vehicles, storage, whatever, for contractors at home.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I liked it then, not necessarily there, but I love the idea. Similar to what they did across the street from me with all the trucks over at Zootopia. My only concern, because I've seen so many people in town come into these meetings with violations and whatnot that just are never really resolved. My concern is if a tenant comes in and says, this is what I'm gonna do, and something happens where that tenant goes against what was approved, or somehow the town's not notified, and let's just pretend 5 years from now, these guys go sideways, rent to somebody with a different type of purpose, and you don't get approval from you guys, who is responsible? If there is an issue with one of these tenants, will it guaranteed fall back on that landowner? Because that's like one, I just dropped your pen. That is one, it's really the only issue I have is just to make sure somebody's culpable for that without passing the buck. Going, well, I didn't know.
So for all violations, it's the responsibility of the landowner. So even for like our businesses in town, at the end of the day, it's actually the responsibility of the landowner to make sure that the businesses, are in compliance with the regulations. So when we send out a violation, it actually gets sent to the landowner. We usually also make a copy for the
Right.
business if it's a business, but it gets sent to them because at the end of the day, they're culpable. That is also why I want to be so clear on what are the uses that were permitted. Anything beyond that, they have to come for a special exception permit. We are we're often tracking people down where we get wind that someone just occupied a space and we got to be like, you need to change a tenant, So technically everybody, whether they're a change of use or whether that use is permitted or not permitted, they should be filing a change of tenant permit with us, even if just the owners change and the name stays the same. We do want to track every business in town to make sure that's happening. Do some slide through? Yes, but more than not, we often usually hear about it and find it somehow, some way to make sure.
Does the town in that situation have a fee that is assessed to the tenants for things like that, like other states do?
I mean, the
Like,
permit has
just
a,
To help offset our administrative fees for all of it?
the permit has a cost, so the
Okay.
change of tenant permit has a cost
Gotcha.
associated
Okay.
with it, yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone online that has any comments on this application? Please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anyone, then we will move on and we'll go back to the applicant. Do you have any other comments or do you want to go ahead and move this to the second? All right, then we'll continue this
We'll submit a letter.
till October the 2nd, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, October the 2nd, good. So we'll just need a letter of extension. Okay, great. Moving on to our second and final public hearing tonight, ZCA/RAH 125, which is 1603 Monroe Turnpike. Special Design District number 8. This is a continued hearing from September the 4th, 2025. And do we have any new exhibits?
Yes, we have an Inland Wetland Commission referral report dated 9/15/25, which I'd like to go into in more detail when the time is appropriate. Exhibit 10 is the revised Planning and Zoning Administrator report by myself with a revision date of 9/17/25. Exhibit 11 is comments from the Town of Monroe Health Department dated 9/17/25.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, the applicant.
Let me share. Or do you need log back in too? Yeah. And it's actually that it up. Turn it off and turn it back on. That's the secret tip.
I used to just smash it a couple times. A little different.
Okay, for the record, Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer, works at 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour. Here tonight representing an applicant, Bruce Monroe Jr. and James Monroe. We received copies of, we attended the Health Wetlands Commission meeting last week. And then we received comments of the health department, from the health department today. I think we would read those in or carry those comments.
From wetlands, they have both of the comments.
Wetlands and health. So we will address all of those comments about wetlands and health as part of our detailed plans commission. We don't really have any new information to submit tonight. We will follow up on those communications and those conditions will be addressed as part of our detailed submission.
So just to recap, wetlands, their biggest concerns was obviously just that the citations get rectified as part of this.
Now, the citations, is there a list of the citations or where do they live?
So there's zoning citations and then there's wetland citations. So in my memo, I have a section on page 2 that says history. And my history says the property has a special exception permit, SCP 1686S and SCP 2388S. The first one's for the main building, the second one's for the second building. The conditions of approval place several conditions on the type and location of storage material. The property has several zoning violations, as noted in CZV 2018-02, including storage of material, equipment, and vehicles in violation of the approved zoning permit, and failing to maintain landscape buffer between commercial property and residential property. Those are the 2 zoning violations. The property has several wetland violations, as noted in both the wetland violation and citation. Filling and storage of fill materials, storage of equipment within upland review area, grading, clearing within the upland review areas, and piping of the intermittent water course. So those are the main ones. There's little details with that. So the goal of this is not only to the applicant wants to do some improvements, but as part of those improvements, they need to rectify all of those items. So that intermittent water course is back behind the second building, which they have, piped here. There was outdoor storage in the rear of that area. The outdoor storage didn't meet the setback requirements. It was going up against the residential area. The intermittent water course also acts as a water course, which has a 100-foot upland review area associated with that on either side. So they're doing some mitigation for that. And then obviously the blue that's running up in the Halfway River has a 150-foot upland review area. And then the unnamed water course has a 100-foot upland review area. And there was some clearing that was done within that for storage of materials. And that's one of the things they're rectifying as part of this. So wetlands' biggest concern was just that all the citations be thoroughly rectified as part of this. As part of an SDD, they're not required to do a landscaping or mitigation plan. So this is not the appropriate time for them to have provided that detail.
These will come later. then.
Yeah, so they now have to go back to Inland Wetland Commission. If you guys were to entertain an approval and it would get approved, they would have to go back to the Inland Wetland Commission. But because this is only a referral, Inland Wetlands was just very concerned that it just gets put on the record that they are going to be held to that standard when they come back for their next application.
That's not part of the zone change. But
That would not be part of a zone change. But the idea is that it could happen, that we are thinking as a planning and zoning commission that we think they'll be able to satisfy those comments as part of the conceptual plan that they have there. The remediation plan shall include long-term invasive species removal and monitoring protocol. That was something that was discussed just because the riparian buffer is being reduced. Some of these other outdoor storage areas did go into wooded areas. So we want to make sure that in addition to not only a hefty landscaping plan, that they also have to do mitigation for the invasive species in this area. And the configuration of the outdoor storage area and wall to be reviewed in order to increase the riparian corridor along the Halfway River. If you remember, Westcog made a very specific comment that they had concerns about the riparian buffer being disturbed within this area. Some of that area has already been disturbed. A couple things that we'd like them to look at is what is the material of that outdoor storage area? I believe it's asphalt millings at the moment. Is there a better, more environmentally friendly version of it if they go through? Can they maybe review that wall and bring it closer to make that riparian area a little heftier? Right now, it's really steep slopes. I'm not quite sure how many trees they can get there. They have stormwater management on one of the other sides. You obviously can't plant on top of a riprap swale. So again, they just wanted to keep that as an option, that they aren't necessarily signing off on this as the wall and the outdoor storage are in place. They believe the riparian buffer probably needs to be increased and mitigated a little more than what they have shown.
Which will also come later.
Which would also come later.
Okay.
But they wanted to hold those rights. They gave a positive referral, but wanted to hold those rights to let the applicant know that those are things they are looking for.
Okay, good.
So yes, so we will address the comments addressed in the wetland letter. We'll address the comments in the health department letter, as well as the zoning violation to get the text change itself is going to address some of the zoning violations. Whatever else is outstanding, we will discuss.
Okay,
For wetlands, if the zoning amendment or text change is not approved, we'll still be going back to wetlands to address the violations and come some other avenue to address them.
okay, good. So let's go to the commissioners with questions. So on my right.
No questions.
No question.
No questions.
So you're just gonna come back with a revised plan?
No, this is it for the SDDA, the change in, we're talking tonight to change the zone. Okay, that's it, basically.
Then they come
All
with
the
the full
details
plan,
later.
all the details, and
Oh, so
their
we're gonna
official
change the
special
whole
exception
for
permit.
plan?
Yes, well, this is what we're seeing. A conception, conceptive.
It's your favorite thing. This could all change when they come back.
Right.
It can't all change.
Well, it can't all-
It has to be in concept.
It's
You're
gonna be within it, but a lot of aspects can change, but.
Done? That was quick. I'm good.
Okay, no questions.
Okay, Kathleen, did you have anything else to contribute?
I don't
We go
think
to the
staff is
public.
requiring any other material at this time.
All right. We'll go to the public. Once again, this is a zone change. This is not a detailed plan for the future. So public participation on this application, just come on down. And please come to the podium, sign in, state your name and address.
name is Paula Jelly. I live at 290 Cottage Street. Is this zoning just changing for the Monroe location? The reason why I ask is that my home at 290 Cottage Street is zoned B2. So I want to make sure my zoning does not change. I'm very happy with my zoning number, whatever you want to call it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Come on down. Name and address for the record, please.
So to say 237 Cottage. I need to rewrite it.
No, once is good.
So a couple questions. On the photo, I printed it, and I know I can't speak to him, so I'm gonna ask you. On the top of that photo, it reads where it says halfway river and it comes down to the T. 30, and there's a foot notation, but it says 30-foot yard and 15-foot. I don't know if it's feet or yard, and that's a big.
It's a yard setback, so, but the dimension.
So if it says 30 feet, 50 feet, though it says yard, is it really 15 and 30 feet?
Yeah, it's feet, it's 15 feet. The yards are the side yard setback, rear yard setback, yeah.
So
They're
that,
not measuring anything in yards.
okay, my biggest concern then, it's not with so much potentially changing zoning. I'm irritated as a resident that we change zoning, infractions happen. We change zoning, infractions happen. And this seems to be the resolution to, I got my hand whacked, just ask for a change and ask forgiveness later, really ticks me off. So I'm trying to be respectful here. However, Westcox specifically states on that, what you said earlier, while regional staff cannot recommend this degree of development within the riparian area, given the existing use of the lot, the proposed project represents a significant improvement in stormwater management. They're looking at the lesser of evils. Doesn't mean it's a good solution. They can't recommend it, period. We have the option to say, yeah, okay, you're gonna do extra mediation and we're just gonna let bygones be bygones and move on with what is. That should hold a bit more weight than sometimes I feel it does, in my opinion. Further, it does state in the next sentence, in general, the benefits of a 100-foot Vegetative riparian buffer and reducing waterway contamination is significant, and the buffer should be maintained whenever possible to meet the zoning requirements of PA 2129. This map is not even 100 feet. That's a concern to me. We're putting money in people's pockets constantly, in my opinion, no disrespect, over what's good for this town or wildlife. This is bull. I just saw a bobcat 2 days ago. I was so excited. The last two I saw were hit out in front of the firehouse over by Paula, in front of Zootopia. In the 6 years I've been here, it was actually a live bobcat. It was so exciting. But I'm more and more concerned the more we build and we don't even stick to our own dang rules or our state's rules. What's the expense? We're turning into Stratford. Not where I want to be. I want to make sure, like I did at the last meeting, I know I'm ecstatic that Kathleen said it would have to go back to IWC. I do want to make sure residents and people other than you who live here are giving our 2 cents that several of us feel. Yeah, okay, you could change zoning, but you can't keep doing it at the expense of why we moved here, which was nature and the animals and the trees and the fresh air. And we're losing it. And unfortunately, you guys are the only go-betweens that's supposed to be here listening to the residents and experts, people for wildlife. So I really hope you guys pay attention to what Lex Cox said. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, please. And really weigh things out before we just give a broad stroke and go, yeah, let's move on again with what's already there. And, you know, too bad for what happened. Thanks.
Anyone else here like to comment on this application? Is there anyone online that would like to comment on this application? Please press the raise my hand button.
There was a hand raised.
I have one.
Okay.
They are being allowed to talk and then they have to accept
It looks
their.
like Kelly?
Can you hear me?
Kelly? Yes.
Okay. Kelly Hengis Carano, 19 Shoals Road. Do you need me to spell my last name for you?
Kathleen?
No.
Okay.
No.
My concern mirrors both Paula's and Michelle's, but I would like to know what is the recourse? We have continued violations and then we're talking about, remediating those violations when we change the zoning and allow this. What is the way? Is there a way that we can have the violations remediated before applications are allowed? Is that a way? Is that something that we can have written, or is that just bad business sense for the town? I'm just concerned because I do see, violations primarily by businesses that aren't being addressed, and that was just my question. Is there a way to have everything remediated before an application's even allowed?
Is that your only question or comment?
It was a question.
Is that the only question or comment that you have?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Once the public session is over, we'll possibly address the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Comments? No? Okay, back to the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So I guess just to respond to some of those comments, but Paula, one is the change only for the Monroe property. Yes, this zone change only applies to 1603 Monroe Turnpike, specifically to that property. Wasn't quite sure if there's a response that we could make to the second set of comments, but we're looking to develop the property. There was no prohibition against the development in the upland review area. It's just that it's an upland review area, so that's up to the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Commission. What does happen or does not happen? And then Lastly, concerns about violations being addressed prior to application. So, some of the violations will be corrected once the amendment is adopted, basically allowing an excavating contractor in this zone. So that's one of the violations. But the intention is that the correction of the violations, corrections of the mitigation work would all be wrapped into the proposed development. And I would imagine we would not get a certificate of zoning compliance or final zoning approval if all of those violations weren't addressed and if the plan was not developed in accordance with what we submitted. So I think you do have checks and balances to make sure that the violations are addressed through the course of the project.
And if this commission does remember, because that was a decision staff was not comfortable making, was not in our jurisdiction, I believe it was before you were hired, but they did come to the planning and zoning subcommittee to ask that exact question. Do you want them to rectify the violations first and then come back for the SDD, or were you willing to entertain it all at one time? And at that point, those that were in attendance at that meeting had stated that they were willing to entertain it at that time.
Right, so zone change has nothing to do with the application.
Zone change does have to do with that. So that as was written in the history, they have a permit to operate as the use they are actually operating under for both the buildings from the special exception permits from 1986. What they're asking to do with the outdoor storage is, in my opinion, not a legal intensification of a pre-existing non-conforming use, because we can't have an excavation contractor in a B2 zone per our current regulations. So if they're a pre-existing non-conforming, they're either, and they want to expand, if they're a legal intensification, they can do that. I'm interpreting this as an illegal expansion is what the legal terms are. And because of that, if they want to expand their use to this point, they needed to come back in order to get that use permitted. And the only legal instrument we have to do that is a special development district. So that rectifies their outdoor storage expansion areas for them to be able to now have that on a drawing and permit that in the locations they have shown.
But this plan, this conceptual plan may change drastically, no?
Yes.
It's a conceptual plan. It cannot change drastically.
What does that mean?
Well, it can change significantly.
No, it can't. I mean, in theory, you guys are approving this in the version where it's at. And it's to protect kind of both sides. Like, they can't come in with something similar to this with the setback shown and things like that. And you guys say, well, no, not really. You've seen it in concept. In concept, it's generally permissible.
Changes in wetlands.
But the flip side is, if you're permitting a 15-foot front yard setback in lieu of the 50 feet in a business district, and they're showing you how they're utilizing that 15-foot front yard setback, they just can't come back now and add a building 15 feet from the property line and say, oh, well, you permitted a 15-foot front yard setback. No, in concept, they're utilizing that 15 feet in the way they currently have shown on the drawings. So it's to protect both sides. So yes, there's going to be some changes related to it just because stuff happens when you do details, when you value engineer it, but it can't be veered too far away from what was done in concept.
Are the applicants comfortable with letting it go like this?
The applicant what?
Comfortable with letting the plan stand like this without going back to wetlands and see what they want?
Well,
They have gone to wetlands for a referral.
Right, but then they're saying they have to meet some changes in their violations on their letter.
Correct. Wetlands had comments related to, like, if they bring that wall near the halfway river away from the halfway river, no one's going to think that's a substantial change. I think they would think that that's an improvement to have it, further away to update the riparian buffer. That would be a change that would be, appropriate. Because inland wetlands doesn't approve or disapprove, they just give this commission a referral. They were trying to give the applicant a heads up of, this is how we think, these are the things we have concerns on related to mitigation in the environment.
They will have to go in front of wetlands.
They have to go in front of wetlands first,
Yeah.
then they'll be back in front of planning and zoning for a special exception permit.
Yes.
The idea is it could change hopefully
But if
with
it
even
doesn't,
more
then-
improvements. If it doesn't, it could
The
still
hope is it changes
get a little better.
closer to what inland wetlands is requesting.
They can we're approving or denying a zone change. Then they come back
This
with,
plan.
correct. So if they make changes that we don't agree with, we deny it. If they keep it somewhat as is, then we approve it.
It's a zone change.
No,
No, we don't necessarily approve it. We're not making.
It's a special development district.
It would
Right.
still, they'd still present and we could still vote yes or no on the actual plan.
correct, that's what I'm saying. Today is just a zone change.
But you are approving, but as part of a special development district change, because they're in the Main Street Design District, you're applying an overlay to it, the special development district to the zone. So it doesn't override the B2 zone. They still have an active B2 zone. They just have a special development district overlaid on top of it. You are approving these plans in concept. And again, that's for protection on both sides, like we had talked about.
Right.
So you're reducing the front yard setback to 15 feet. That does not mean that if they don't move forward with this plan, they can come back with a completely different use, a completely different plan and show a building 15 feet from the front yard setback. They can't because you're approving this plan in concept.
Okay.
But vice versa, same thing there. They can't come back with this exact same plan and you guys say, no, we're going to deny it because you are approving it in concept.
Right.
Can you show the 100-foot riparian order? How much you'd have to give up to meet that regulation?
So right now, currently, this is the 30-foot setback to the residential zone, this line here. And our wall was just outside of that. This is the area and along the unnamed water course off the side here. This is where they asked us to, wetlands asked us to get some more space or some more corridor adjacent to the unnamed water course. And especially up at this corner here where we're very tight to the 30-foot setback from the.
Do you have the 100-foot line on here?
So halfway river, yes, we do, halfway river, I'm gonna zoom back out again. So halfway river is actually 150 feet. Okay, so here's the 150 feet for halfway river.
You don't have the 100-foot on there.
Well, because the halfway river is 150
feet from
feet.
halfway river.
It's a named
100
water
feet
course.
from the unnamed water course. So that's why this one
I see.
here is 100 feet. Here is the unnamed water course. And then that blends in and stays at 100 feet from the unnamed water course. And then it jumps to 150 feet off of halfway river. So you've got, this lower portion of the unnamed water course has got more than 150 foot setback to it. But we're complying with the regulations of 100-foot setback typically. And then specifically halfway river is 150 foot, which is basically through the middle of the parcel. And again, just a reminder, so the high tension lines also cut this parcel, bisect this parcel, as well as the Old Red Road, and that's been discontinued, that does bisect the road because the Wileys in the rear still have rights to use that road. So, it's a very constrained piece of property, and with the easement, with the topography, with the river, and we're trying to make the best of it.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, so you think that you're going to be able to satisfy wetlands with what you're going to do here? We don't know.
So, we hope so. But we don't have that, we don't have the mechanism now.
No, I understand where you're going, but so you're in agreement with this plan that you could probably meet this plan with taking care of stuff with wetlands? Or you don't really know?
Wetlands has asked us to look at moving the storage area up and away from halfway river. So
I'm just saying, I mean, as far as for your applicant and stuff like that, I was just trying to see if you're gonna meet the requirements of this plan for like without big drastic changes to wetlands. I mean, I'm just asking that out because it's obvious that we're probably gonna go move forward here, but, I just need you to realize that this plan may stand.
We understand that, and they've put that as part of their referral, that they want to see that corridor increased, so when we go back to them with the final plans, it will not be exactly like this. We're gonna have some increased setback only halfway on the unnamed water course. And if they say they want more, then we'll have to address it and provide more, but we're prepared to make some changes to try and meet their.
Like we were discussing, you don't think you're gonna have any draft plan, right?
I mean, that's at the discretion of the commission. He can't
down to
see
what?
that in the future. That's a,
Nobody knows, but I'm saying that we have to go by this plan at the end.
well, you planning and zoning, but they have to go to wetlands before they come back to you.
No.
So if wetlands makes them make changes, they'll make changes before they come back. But if they bring that wall, if they make that storage area smaller, I don't think you guys are gonna think that's a substantially negative change that's not in the spirit of the conceptual plan that you propose.
Fine with me, I just
Yeah.
asking, okay.
Okay, any other commission questions?
No, sir.
Anything else you'd like to?
So just in closing, again, Commissioners, we ask your approval of the Special Development District Number 8. This project aligns with the goals of the Plan of Conservation and Development. This project is good for the economy of Monroe. This project is good for the environment. It would represent a significant improvement in stormwater management. Not my words, but people from Westcog. And lastly, it will address some of the outstanding zoning violations of the parcel by approval of the SUD. And by us bringing in detailed plans, we can address all of the violations between wetlands and zoning. So that we can conduct our operations efficiently. We seek your approval.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll close this hearing.
Did we offered the public?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making.
It's done. Closed, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then,
Thanks, Jeff.
we'll go ahead. We have no site development plans. Don't want to, you can deliberate on this application now. You okay with that?
Let's do it.
All right. Are we, I'm not that crazy about the incursion into the encroachment onto the halfway river. I don't think they can meet the 150 and 100 foot that would like.
They don't have to, all 150 feet means is they have to get a permit for anything they do within the 100.
But the riparian,
It's the upland review area for a named water course.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they can't do anything in that. It just means they have to get a permit from wetlands in order to be able to do that,
right.
to do work within that 150 feet.
Yeah, what they can't build in is the 50-yard foot setback from the property line, which happens to be in the middle of the river, which is
Well, from the water course.
interesting.
The water course is 100 feet, right?
But again, they can do stuff within that. It just has to be approved by wetlands.
wetlands.
There's no rule that says you can't.
No.
50, they can't build with it. That's the rule. It's a setback. But it's,
But they're reducing that setback
yes.
to 30
It's not gonna
feet,
be 50.
No, I know.
or 20.
That's with the change, and then it's smaller, it's closer to the river because the property line goes down the middle of the river, which is confusing. So it's 30 feet from the property line, but 15 from the river?
No, it includes the center of the river. Well, all the measurements are from the center of the river, I believe.
Yeah, but if there's, I believe it was 30 to the center of the river, but to the river's edge, I think it was about 15, right? Maybe?
Look at the plan. So yes, the property line goes down the river and there's 30 feet at like the closest corner. So right where the unnamed watercourse and the halfway river goes, their 30-foot setback in that area just hits that corner. So from halfway through the river. So yeah, I would say in that area, 15 to 20 feet from that corner to the river. But then as you get further east, as you get further down, it gets a little bigger. The wall doesn't parallel the river. It actually skews a little.
So we're close to the river is what I'm trying to just get at there.
Who recommended the 100-foot setback, is it Aquarian?
The Aquarian, Westcock's comment, and I will read it directly so that I do not misquote them. So MetroCog just noted no regional significance, so our Council of Governments. Westcog, which has Newtown in it, which is why they get notified. Stated, thank you for submitting the attached referral to Westcog. While regional staff cannot recommend the degree of development within the riparian area, given the existing use of the lot, the proposed project represents a significant improvement in stormwater management. In general, the benefits of a 100-foot vegetated riparian buffer in reducing waterway contaminations are significant, and this buffer should be maintained wherever possible to meet the zoning requirements of Public Act 21-29. So yes, Westcog is, that's where the 100 feet is coming from. That's not a town, except for the unnamed water course. They're talking about 100, yeah.
As of now, with the violations, there's a lot that's happened very close to those waterways, but there's no stormwater management. So there's potentially a lot of stuff currently flowing into that river that shouldn't be flowing to that river. And with these corrections, in turn, though we're doing development close to the river, we're also making moves to protect what ends up flowing into the river a little bit more. So with that, I would move towards an approval because it's benefiting. I mean, we could slap them on the wrist and say, no, sorry, you don't get anything, but then it sits as it is and.
Technically, it shouldn't sit as it is.
It shouldn't, yes.
Would
They should
continue with
continue to work.
Conditions and things like that.
Yeah, but
Hasn't worked in the past.
it hasn't worked in the past, and as of now, as we speak right now, stuff's flowing into that river that should be flowing into that river. That extra waterway.
But we also at subcommittee have told them that they could do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it as long as.
That's all I'm saying is like, we tell them at subcommittee, come in and you do both at the same time, and then we can't make an issue of it when we get here. Saying that, hey, you gotta fix the violations before you do that.
Yeah, no,
I think
no,
it's,
I'm in agreement. I think this is approving this is the move to.
Make it as all an application. And I
think this is pretty much a no-brainer.
These things there. Wetlands is not real happy with a couple things on this application. If they're drastic changes, that's why I was asking if they're comfortable with that.
Well, it comes down to wetlands. I mean, that's the idea is this moves forward and then wetlands gets to work with them and they get to work with wetlands. And the nice thing is they're here working with us now and they're willing to work with wetlands and then they're willing to come back and work with us again for the official approval. And again, I think at the end of the day, it's steps in the direction of protecting the environment more than it's being protected right now.
Giving them the SDD.
Mhm.
The problem I have an issue with is if the plan drastically changes in wetlands and they have to come back in front of us and it doesn't meet what we approve. That's the only.
What's your, so I guess with that, again, it's,
Probably gonna get better.
well, it's a hypothetical, right? So we don't know what they'll change. We would
Right.
assume that they're gonna
It doesn't make
say,
a difference to me. I'll approve the SDD. What I'm saying to you is that we're gonna go by what the plan is for them. And I was just saying that they're comfortable with working with wetlands to try to get it to meet the same within a certain parameter, because Kathleen even said it can't go that far out of it.
right, so then what are we talking about?
if they are gonna meet with wetlands before it comes back in front of us.
I'm so
If wetlands
confused.
says no, it doesn't come in front of us, right? If
Right.
wetlands gives them a no,
You can't vote on it without wetland making their determination.
your determination. So then
But that's the case in every
let's say they approve
application.
it, they work with them, they say they're gonna move the cut into their storage and.
Oh my God.
It then comes in front of us, we look and we go, oh, it has changed from what you showed us,
We're happy with it.
but it's now even more of a protection for the water. Alternatively, if wetlands comes and says, oh, you know what, build in the river, and we're like, what's going on? And they come in front, we can also say, we can kind of use it as, well, this is drastically changed in the direction we don't like, so we don't have to approve it. Versus if everybody comes and says, yeah, it's drastically changed, but in a direction that we think is better for the wetlands, then we could approve it. And they're aware of that, because again, they're here and they're willing and they're gonna move forward and talk. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like,
No, that's true. Okay.
yeah.
Rob, I haven't heard from you.
I think that we need to keep in mind that, this is a local business that's been in town for decades. They've been here for decades and, the applicant's been very cooperative since they first came in front of us in reference to the zone change, the parcel, to make the area compliant, I feel is admirable, and with the addition of stormwater treatment, which is not, present now. So if you're worried about the waterways, you're going to be in favor of this application, this SDD.
All right, so it sounds like we're moving towards a recommendation.
Okay. I would just like to bring a couple things up, which is I do believe this commission has spoken briefly, but that we do want to make sure, and some of this was in my comment letters, we do want to make sure that the residential properties to the rear are reviewed for further screening as part of the special exception permit, because we do have those neighbors in the back and we very much care about making sure that their views are properly mitigated. As we've talked about before, all the violations, both zoning and wetlands, have to be rectified. Commissioner Wetland had talked about wanting additional lighting renderings to be provided as part of the special exception permit, just to make sure that we are complying with dark sky compliance and understanding the impact on the neighbors and the rest of the community. And that during this meeting, the applicant had stated that they were willing to maintain landscaping invasive species within the Eversource easement. As part of the special exception permit, they're going to review the pavement materials in the riparian buffer to make sure it's environmentally appropriate for that area. And I would request that there is a condition of the approval that they just have to update the legal description to include the latest date of the drawings and their statement of uses. And we didn't get an updated version of that, so that would be the only condition.
And also the snow removal and upkeep of that easement, the road.
Yeah, okay.
Easement language would have to go into the SDD as well.
The easement is between the neighbors. So the easement is between the neighbors and the rear, and Mondo, we did not put any conditions on that easement. So it's really, they just need to comply with what was already decided in the court system. There's not really much for us to enforce because it's actually was done in a civil matter. They are putting pavement there. So the hope is one, it's gonna help the erosion that is a continued issue on that road that I think some people have already seen. And two, the hope is actually just makes snow plowing better. I do know, I don't think this was said during this public hearing, it was said privately with the neighbors and myself, but they do just want to make sure that they are complying with snow and river from point A down to the very bottom of that hill, which is what is in their legal agreement. So yes, they need to comply with that, but that's not something we can really enforce on our end because it's an access and maintenance agreement between the two property owners. The town wasn't part of that litigation.
All right, then you want to draft approval.
Again, I think we talked about everything that would be put in the approval. If you guys would like to vote on it tonight, again, the only thing I have is a condition to update the legal description to include the latest date of the drawings noted in the statement of uses, but I'm comfortable if we would like to vote on this.
All right.
So I'm good voting on it.
Let's entertain a motion then. Chair will entertain a motion to approve SDDA.
Motion to approve ZCA RAA 2025-01, file 1031-1603, Monroe Turnpike, SDD number 8, as proposed.
Second.
All right, pull the roll, sign, am I right?
Condon, yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
Mayne, yes.
Westland, yes.
All right, approval is unanimous.
Bang the book.
Congratulations.
Bang the book.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
We'll see you back.
Have a good night, thank you.
All right, well, we have a list of new applications here for next month.
All right, so the first one is SEP 2025-05, 1536 and 1564 Monroe Turnpike. You guys are aware of this. You heard it at the last meeting. They will be opening their public hearing for the 8-lot cluster development subdivision on October 2nd. If anybody here from the public is interested in that job, we got a lot of emails before the public hearing technically opened. If anybody wants those comments actually included as part of the record, you can either forward me the original email or write me a new email with that information in. But technically, all those emails that came in before you guys made the decision to accept the application isn't technically included in the record. And I will try to find time to email as many people as I can individually to tell them that as well. But if you could pass that along to people, please pass that along to
The
me.
same goes to anything that was previously submitted during public record of the.
100%.
previous thing. So
Any-
it's almost a complete redo of the hearing.
Brand new application, brand new record. So you guys can
Wilkins.
only take into consideration what was there. And I don't care if people make copies of it. I don't care if you come into town hall and you want to see the old file and you can make a copy of what you already submitted in the old file and give it to us again. Well, I'm happy to, help the public in any way they can to make that as easy as possible, but technically it has to be resubmitted.
They go in front of wetlands now?
They got approved by wetlands.
Did you?
Yeah, so you
Oh,
guys,
that's right, the original.
yeah, the original application. And so
Don't have to go back to wetlands.
they don't have to go back to wetlands because they got approval. So that your original denial currently is in litigation. So that kind of puts the start date of that approval on hold because technically the wetlands approval isn't activated if there's a secondary planning and zoning approval required, like a special exception permit. So either way this turns out, whether it goes into litigation, either when it resolves in litigation, when that decision is rendering, that starts the wetland approval, or if this would get approved, that would then start the wetland approval too.
Got it.
So their wetlands approval is kind of on hold, but they don't have to go back to wetlands.
All right.
17 Enterprise, there's 2 of these on here. They have come to subcommittee, so you've seen this a little bit before. But basically, when the warehouse in the rear was built at 17 Enterprise, they did a parking calculation for 97 spaces on site, then included office, the arborist, and warehousing only. There is an indoor recreation use that is coming in, an American Ninja Warrior gym that would like to occupy one of the spaces in the front building that has a very significantly higher parking calculation than warehousing use. So this is a 2-part application. The first special exception permit, which is actually located lower on the list. We just put these in as it came in, but we'll rearrange this to make sense when you hear it, is for shared parking. They want to amend that original special exception permit to allow shared parking. They have one tenant in the front building. That's a typical kind of 9 to 5-ish. And then the American Ninja Warrior gym is more of a 3 to 9 and birthday party weekends. And so they would like to apply for shared parking, which has to be determined by this commission. If you guys are willing to entertain that, then we have the special exception permit for the actual gym because indoor recreation industrial uses require a special exception permit. So they are coming in with that.
At the same time.
Process for those, yes. So you would have to make the approval for the shared parking first, and then make the determination for the other one. So if the first one gets denied, the second one kind of automatically gets denied and vice versa. 1585 Monroe Turnpike, Unit 2, same thing. This original special exception permit for that site only approves warehousing. There's a wholesale distributor, which again has a slightly different parking calculation and requires a special exception permit. In the regulations is coming in to occupy one of those spaces. They are an olive oil and olive distributor. They are currently in Brooklyn and looking to move to Monroe because he's a resident of Monroe. So he will be coming in for that special exception permit. And then the last one is 909 Main Street. That is a site that has a current excavation and fill permit that is currently active. He came to you guys, I want to say 6 months ago for an extension of that excavation and fill. He is looking to change the zone from industrial 1 to business 2. He has come in front of subcommittee to entertain that. Basically, he is looking to widen his ability of uses in that area. There's a B2 zone across the street. The site's kind of set up a little bit more for commercial than it is for an industrial. So he is looking to expand those potential uses in order to hopefully get that developed and expand our tax base.
Great. So also in some.
Yes.
All right, other business meeting minutes from September the 4th, 2025. You all have those minutes in front of you.
I'll make a motion to approve of the minutes as written.
Great. Have a motion? Condon, need a second?
Second.
Second, Westland. Everybody look at it. Any changes, any discussion? You're absent, right?
Yeah, but you're not, are you going to seat someone for me and Leon for minutes?
No.
You don't have to seat.
No,
for
we don't
minutes,
need
right?
to.
You just have three of us vote.
You don't have to what?
You don't have to seat people to vote.
No.
Me and Leon skipped last week.
You guys can
Abstain. It's abstain.
All right.
Oh,
Are there any changes to the minutes? No? All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's unanimous.
And 2 abstentions.
We
Two
are,
abstentions.
Me and Bruno abstain.
Leon and
Yes.
I abstain.
All right, then we have call roll, starting on my right.
Okay.
Condon, yes.
No, everybody.
Everyone?
No.
It's for the minutes.
Maglino, yes.
an HAS.
Condon, yes.
Ambrosi abstain.
O'Reilly, yes.
Mayne abstain.
Westland, yes.
Yes.
All right.
And I don't actually really think you guys can all vote. It's still just the five.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's us, yeah.
I'll just
Why not?
change
I
it.
mean, it's minutes. They're here.
They're not seeing.
3-0.
They're
Let's
not.
go. Yankees are
Planning and zoning matters.
to be determined at a later date.
Oh, I think there's a report here.
Yeah, do you want to do my land use stock report now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the report for August-ish. It goes through our building permits and DCCs. A couple highlights is 707 Main Street, which was the place of religious worship that recently got approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. They have gotten their certificate of zoning compliance and they're working for their certificate of completion. So that is moving forward. Several home occupation permits in town that continues to be a really consistent application that we get in. People are working from home, people are operating businesses out of their homes, especially in the post-COVID era. So we are happy to support that happening in town. Change of tenant, there was an ownership change for 115 Main Street. And then there was an office that was put in at 887 Main Street, supporting 2 of the businesses. Floodplain permits, we issue floodplain permits for the Judd Road Bridge construction, which is happening very, very soon. They have gone through all their permitting and that has become a very high priority of the town to rectify that bridge. And the Housatonic Valley Rail Trail sections 2 and 3. Also received their floodplain permit and that will be moving forward, which
It's the
is,
southern part, my trumpet.
yeah, and that's been on hold for a real long time. So that's very exciting.
Potentially 2 people before you.
Yeah. So that's very exciting to me moving forward. So we're excited to see that. Some other items just of interest. Thomas Noonan, our zoning enforcement officer, has inventoried every single internally lit sign associated with business along Main Street and Monroe Turnpike. And he has sent out letters to every property owner and businesses that are in violations with the current existing zoning regulations. He started receiving calls already. So we did that to be fair to all the businesses across the board. So we hope to start to see that. That's obviously not an easy process. It was literally over 100 letters that got sent out and that he has to track. But he did an excellent job, and we're very thankful because that was quite the heavy lift to do that fairly across the board. But hopefully we can make some really big impacts before it starts to get, really dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock at night in the winter season. So that was our main goal. I don't have anything for subcommittee at the moment. I don't know if anybody else has wind of anything else that they think would be appropriate, but if not, we are not going to schedule subcommittee. I had originally was going to plan one in October before you see me absent for a little bit.
My next question.
I will be going on maternity leave at the very end of October, barring, nothing else goes wrong. We will have an interim planner come to assist. She hasn't signed her contract yet, so I'm going to wait until her contract is actually signed to announce more for that.
Is that full time?
No, she's just going to be here on Mondays, and then she will work remotely a little bit throughout the week as items come in.
How about us on meetings?
She will attend meetings. And Bill will attend or oversee those meetings as well, our Community and Economic Development Director, because he's going to have a very integral part of all of this, just making sure things get to the people that they should.
Minutes.
Christy Riley handles them, our office manager. She does an excellent job. That's why you get them within the FOIA time period every single week, because she's a beast. She does ZBA, planning and zoning. So she'll continue to do that. So there should be no break in how that functions.
Okay, so we have you until Halloween.
So you have me until Halloween. And then I'll be back. I promise.
Yes. All right, correspondence. Do we have any report, any commissioners' reports? Nothing?
No.
Land use, we did the land use, all right, so Chair will entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mayne.
Second.
Second, Condon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. It is 8:16. You're adjourned.